and we're gonna start soon. Maybe we can start. One of the things that we wanted to do right to start actually is get a little bit of input from you guys. So I'm going to go here and just share this. I think, yeah, thank you, AJ, for starting this. We wanted to get a little bit of an input from you guys. Is what is your currently main struggle with Lead Docket? And you know, there's 4 options in there. Maybe there's a huge list that you can talk about here, but really just what are the main things that you're trying to achieve in Lead Docket that you may not be able to get today, or that you would like to improve in your Lead Docket? Let's hear a little bit of those thoughts, and I'll leave the poll up here while we introduce ourselves, and we can talk a little bit about who is here today, what do we want to achieve. We'll leave that question up for a little bit until we can get the answer. So that's there. Thank you, Aja. I'm gonna confirm everybody can see my screen. I'm gonna navigate to a few of these slides so you can see. So just a quick introduction for everybody today. You're gonna have myself here hosting, and Shade, who is a colleague here at Fine Skills that also Lead Docket expert. And then we also have Joe from Rosen Injury Lawyers join a little bit later today. We're saving the best for last, so we'll introduce Joe when we get to the reporting section that we want to talk about. So wait for that. It's going to be really cool. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction of, of myself. I'm Ivan. I've been with Vine Skills for a little over a year now. My background is in the marketing and sales industry. I've been working on that for a long time, but specifically in the legal industry, I was a chief marketing officer and over marketing and intake for a law firm, mainly personal injury. We did some employment and bankruptcy, fairly high volume. We were signing around 150 to 200 cases a month. So I was over a marketing team and the intake team there for 4 or 5 years. Working in Lead Docket, that's when I got to know Lead Docket and FileVine pretty well. I moved to another firm for a brief period of time as a marketing director as well. They didn't have Lead Docket. I say it wasn't as fun. It was a little messier. We used Salesforce with them. So I got to know a little bit of that as well. And then eventually joined Vine Skills. So my background, I've got a little bit of that experience from the law firm side. And now we get to just see all of the, multiple firms at the same time, which I think is really fun to do. I'll let Shade, you want to chime in, introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am Shade. I actually just recently joined the Vine Skills team a few months ago. I came over from FileVine, where I was implementing clients onto Lead Docket specifically while I was with them. And my background is also a little bit in marketing, but more in the lead acquisition side. So I worked in a couple different software doing real estate and leasing lead acquisition. So a little bit related, which is kind of what brought me into the software industry and led me to FileVine ultimately. So I love working in Lead Docket. We've been working together for a couple months now, trying to make sure that we've got the best of both sides to give everybody a little bit of perspective on how we can use it the best.
That's awesome. Joe, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself now since you're going to be here. You might as well introduce yourself and then we'll talk more about it on the reporting side.
Yeah, so my name's Joe Fantini. I'm the managing attorney at Rosen Injury Lawyers, which is a national mass tort firm. I've actually been using Lead Docket myself for almost 5.5 years. I think I was one of the first 20 accounts they've had, so grown a lot with them over the years. And I've had the pleasure of working with Ivan and Vine Skills here over the past 6-7 months, building out some awesome reports and dashboards that I'm excited to share with you guys later.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining, by the way, Joe. I want to give that quick note because it's really cool. I love when some of our clients share their knowledge. I think that's super nice. Super nice to see. So I appreciate you joining there and making the time. Okay, so maybe we close the poll and let's look a little bit of the results that we've got and see. And I believe that should show up for you guys as well. You should have a little window that pops up. with, what are the main issues that we're looking at today. I see intake performance was the highest one. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Getting my team to really use it is a big one, adoption from the team. That's part of what we do a little bit, is right, understanding what are the roadblocks for the team. And then reports. That seems to be a big one. I'm surprised that know where my leads are coming from is slow. That's good to know. That means you're using your marketing sources correctly, but that's good to know. So one of the things that I'm going to urge you guys to do today is, I do not want to be the only one talking here and blabbing away through my whole stuff. So please ask questions. We're going to have a Q&A at the end where we're going to answer some questions, but throughout the conversation, feel free to send your questions on the Q&A. There should be a Q&A button for you. You can ask them anytime. We might stop what we're doing. We might just go and answer your question. It's really a free flow type of webinar. We want to keep it as interactive as possible. So post comments, post whatever questions you may have in there. Sade can help me monitor those things, because I may not see the questions pop up, and we'll just interrupt me at any time. We'll just address the questions. We really want this to be as useful as possible for you guys. All right, we're going to cover a lot today. We're going to start really going at a few different things that are available in Lead Docket. So we're not going to go into depth into some of them, but it's just going to give you guys, the goal is to give you guys a sense of the possibilities that are in Lead Docket. So this is our agenda. Without further ado, I'm going to dive right into it. Our first topic that I want to talk to you guys about is some very underused features in Lead Docket that we would recommend you guys doing and using it right now. These are features that are available in every Lead Docket. They're not add-ons. You have to pay for them at all. They're just part of what you have, and you can turn them on right now. So I want to start with message snippets. If you get anything out of this webinar, message snippets should be one of them. Message snippets is a feature that allows you or anybody on your intake team to, and you can see here's our Lead Docket, right? This is our demo Lead Docket. It allows you to go into a lead, and let me misspell my own name. Go into a lead and send them a pre-templated message, but not automatically, right? So I'm going to manually go into my messages, and intake team loves this because they are typing this message over and over again saying, please send me a copy of our driver's license. They type that message 100 times for multiple clients. So you can create something called message snippets. And that message snippets is a drop down that shows up right here. And you can say, well, this is a couple that we configured. Send us photos of your vehicle. Boom, I clicked it. You notice that it pulls the client's name. And so it has dynamic text in here. I just hit send, and that message is sent. And it's a templated message that you can send to your clients. So how to do that? I'm going to go into how to do this one, but I'm not going to do that for every feature. Here's how you do that. You go into your message templates, and at the top right, you see message snippets. So if you click on there, we configured a few here. They can be text or they can be email. You can go in there and add a new one. See how we use merge codes to pull dynamic text. So you can create them per case type, per statuses. They're super flexible. This is one thing that we create super easy. Your intake team loves you because it just speeds their process up. They can send those messages directly. So message snippets, mark that one down. Tracking expenses. This is a big one. Lead Docket has the ability to track marketing expenses. If you haven't done it, we see many firms that don't. If you haven't done it, you can go to your expenses here and add your expenses per your marketing sources. There's a better way to do that. There's a spreadsheet way to import as well. So I'm not going to cover in details, but just know this exists. And this is a feature that you can actually take advantage of. If you put your expenses in here, you then start getting really great reports here on the reporting side. Okay, that's your cost per lead, cost per case. This comes from that expenses. So if you're seeing a bunch of zeros here on your Lead Docket, that's what it is. You got to put your expenses in there. That's number 2. Phase mapping. I'm going to cover this one quickly because this applies for whoever has FileVine as a case management system, right? You can map back your phases from FileVine back into Lead Docket. So in Lead Docket, that feature is under pending file vine mapping, and then you will see here file vine phases. It allows you to, the main thing that you should do right now, if you have a file vine connected to your Lead Docket, you should go in here and set your archive to close your cases in Lead Docket. Lead Docket has a phase called close, or a status called close, that is supposed to be tracking all the cases that you open, you worked on them, and then you close them, you settle them. If you don't close your cases are going to be open forever, and you lose a lot of data that you could be getting when you close them. So definitely recommend that. That's phase mapping. Call functionality. Go into this one. Call functionality is something that is available in Lead Docket. You do have to request it. You have to request it to support, or if you're working with Vine Skills, we can turn it on for you guys. But many of you guys don't know, Lead Docket has the ability to call directly from Lead Docket. This is a super neat feature that allows you to see, you see my screen here, there's a phone number for my lead. I can click on this arrow button and it says click to initiate call. And what it does, it's really smart because it doesn't use its own phone system. It uses your own company's phone system. So whatever you're using, if you use Ring Central or whatever the phone system is, doesn't really matter. What it's going to do is it's going to call the lead and call me as the intake person and connect those two things. So it really works on any systems that you have. And it allows you to get then really great data on your calls. It logs all of your calls in here for you. I don't have one in this case. I should have done a call to show you guys. But if I make a call, I get a log of that call. Who started it? What was the duration of it? If it was an outbound call or it's an inbound call, you can see that information right here on this screen. So when you, and you actually have a recording of that screen as well. So this is a feature that allows you to, for example, I want to see what's going on with this case. I can go in here. Of course, I've got the messages, I've got the notes, but I can go in there and listen to the calls that my intake team has been making with that lead. All of that gets logged in here. So hope I'm not going too fast. Am I going too fast? But this drop questions if you guys want to know more about specifics of these features. I know I'm kind of going through them pretty quickly because I want to get to the other part. So call functionality brings me to my next idea, which is something that not to Joe here. I think Joe was the first person that had this idea. Now it's been used, but some of these features I'm going to go into tips and tricks, which is some things that you can do in Lead Docket that you may not have thought about. This is a really neat one that I would say you can do it right now on your Lead Docket, which is you can send it to your opportunities. When somebody writes you on your web chat and they contact you for some reason, you can send them automatically back that text. Some people may have been sending a text saying, thank you for contacting us. You know, we're going to contact you shortly. You can automatically send them that message, but with it, you can attach a contact card. You can give them a contact card for your firm and say, you know, add our contact to your phone so you can better reach you. And what that does is it allows them to receive those text messages and calls that are going to show up from the same number. So when you text them next or when you call them, it's going to pop up with your contact card because you're contacting their phones. So you can send them that contact card automatically or send it throughout the case as well. So if you're doing a message template that you're setting up for a chase that you're trying to chase that client, you can tell them, please add this contact to your phone so we can reach you. And the cool thing about the calls is that you call them from the same number that you text them. So you can, for example, here's another thing that I've seen a couple of firms do very successfully is one of the hardest things is to get a hold of clients, right? This is a pretty hard thing to do is get a hold of your clients. So you can then send a quick message saying, I'm calling you now. And I send this message. It's a text message. The chances of your client opening a text messages are much higher than answering a weird phone call that has an unknown number. So you send them a little text message and say, I'm going to call you from this number. they recognize the number and your answer rate goes up. So that's a pretty neat kind of trick to get those leads to answer the phone. Great. We got some questions, but I guess we can, let me see, how to request access to set that up. I believe you requested through the setting through here. So you can go to your help center and you have to ask, you go here, sorry, not help center. You can contact support. If you click contact support, it's going to open up a email. You send them saying that you would like to enable the call feature in your lead docket, and they can enable it. If you're working with Vine Skills, we can go in the back end and set that up for you. Okay. I don't have clients directly integrating the call functionality with Ring Central or FileVine. It doesn't connect directly to them. You got to keep in mind that this is not using the Ring Central system. It's actually just becoming a middleman and tracking it in the middle. So it doesn't directly connect to them, not this feature specifically. There's some other things that you can do there. All right, a couple of other really interesting things that we built were customer satisfaction survey. This is a popular one. This is a really cool one. Is we are able, if you use FileVine specifically, you can use Lead Docket to set up survey or satisfaction surveys to go out to your clients that get then put back into FileVine and track their satisfaction rating. So I have a couple of clients doing this now where when the case hits a certain phase in FileVine, it hits a settlement phase or it hits a treatment phase in FileVine, it sends the client a message, how are we doing? Let us know how my team is doing. They answer that question on a text message. That question gets put back into FileVine in a collection section. We can track the ratings that every lead is every client now is giving back to you. So I'm seeing some really interesting things. We can even set up some alarms. So if they answer like, I'm not happy, we can set up some emails that can be triggered to let you know and catch any unhappy customers. I don't have that set up on our Lead Docket right now to show you how it works, but this is a really interesting kind of use of Lead Docket and FileVine combined. And that would, for that one, we would use Zapier and some other tools to kind of make that happen as well. Calculating SOLs. This is a nice, nice kind of feature here. I see Nick's question is that we don't have unhappy clients. Nobody has unhappy clients here. I know this is a big deal, especially when you're doing review management and you really want to capture those clients before they go on Google and do a bad review or something like this. So I've seen more and more the, kind of interest in making sure that you're catching those clients early before they get angry. All right. So then let me go back to the next one. I see calculate SOL dates. This is a really cool one. It's a nod to I've got some of our Arnold Aiken friends here on the room, so I see them there. We built them this. It's a really cool feature that allows you to calculate the SOL based on the incident date or in the date of birth, depending on the state, depending on the case type. So we created a little bit of an automation there. Of course, it's a reference for them to have a quick, SOL calculation. It doesn't replace, of course, your own view of that case, but it's a really cool feature that allows them to just pop up a field in there, and we can have a report that shows all of your upcoming SOLs, and it can guide you some of that actions, especially on mass torts and some personal injury. So that's a pretty cool tips and tricks in there. And there's some other, the one that I'm working on right now, I just talked to Shade about this, is we're doing keyword spotting on CallRail. If you guys use CallRail is a very popular feature, and definitely recommend looking into it. CallRail can do keyword spotting on your calls. If you didn't know that, if somebody in the call says, I had a concussion, it will spot that keyword from that call, and it will mark it in CallRail. So you have keyword spotting is what it's called, or keyword docketing. And so you can see that in CallRail. we are now working with a client to bring that keyword spotting into Lead Docket. So when a client pops up in your Lead Docket, you will have a tag that says concussion was mentioned in this call or something like this, so you can identify certain things. There's really a lot that can be done in Lead Docket. It's not, you know, it seems like a simple feature, but it's really not that simple. All right, I do have some questions. I realize that you guys don't see each other's questions. So thank you for letting me know, Shade. So I might want to go into some of these and see if they're pertinent. Otherwise, we'll kind of go back to them towards the end of the time here. All right, I'm going to move on to this. This is a big part of this webinar. Is Lead Docket has been releasing a lot of new features. We're going back about 4 months, I guess, 5 months maybe in this features. So in the last few months only, there's a lot that can be done in Lead Docket that was not previously possible. So we want to cover some of these for you guys today. And I will start here, but then I'm going to hand it off to Shade because I'm talking too much. I'm going to say Lead Forms is one of the big ones. And that wasn't the first ones. This was last year that was announced. Lead Forms in your Lead Docket, if you guys are not familiar with this, is if you go under Manage, you have something called Lead Forms right now. And it gives you the ability to send something to your lead for them to answer at their own time. All right. So for example, here's one example that I just did. I can go into this lead and I can send a form to them. And what this form is going to look like, I will show you what that form is going to look like. If I click it on it here, this is how you set up the form. You can put any questions on your form that are in your Lead Docket. And then the lead is going to get something similar to this. They can open up on their phone, they can be texted, and they can then fill out a questionnaire for you. And that questionnaire gets put back into Lead Docket in the proper fields. So I know this is it's a big kind of task sometimes for several intake teams is, I need to answer this questionnaire, this intake questionnaire, and I've got 100 questions to ask them. What I'm seeing more and more now is you ask 10 of them on the phone, and then you tell them, I'm going to send you another, few questions for you to answer on your own. It also allows them to upload documents. So I want to say I need the pictures of their driver's license. They can upload that document in here, and that will show up for you, put back into your Lead Docket straight where it needs to go. So super neat feature in there in Lead Docket. Let me go back here. Calendly integration. If you haven't seen this, this is also, I think, earlier this year, Lead Docket announced a native calendar integration. Sorry, I just saw Megan's question. Good question, Megan. On the lead forms, I am not aware of plans to have more than one lead form per case type. There's some workarounds that you can think about to do that, but right now you have one lead form per case type. Good question, Megan. All right, moving on to Calendly integration. Lead Docket announced earlier this year the ability to do a native connection to Calendly, and what that does, it's really cool. At the firm that I worked for, our intake team had a really hard time scheduling leads for the attorneys because there are 4 or 5 attorneys on call. You have to look at their calendars, have to pick whose attorney is available, and scheduling a lead, the intake person scheduling a lead can be tricky. So Lead Docket enabled this button now that says Open Calendly. And what it does is when I have a lead open, if I click Open Calendly, it's going to pull up my Calendly page. So you have to have a Calendly account, obviously, and you can connect a Calendly account to all of your attorneys. You can have, I don't have one to show you guys here, but you could have a drop down that picks the attorney. You can have a logic in your Calendly that says, what's the first available attorney, right? So it just goes and looks for all of your attorney calendars and see these are the first available ones, regardless of which attorney it is. Or you can pick the attorney, and then I go in here, I pick their time, and I hit schedule. When I hit schedule, I can actually do that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and schedule this event. When I do this, my lead in Lead Docket is going to automatically be put in their schedule. Is send all the automated emails get sent from Lead Docket. Everything then triggers back into Lead Docket for the scheduled status. It's a pretty cool feature to do. The other thing that I like about this is that if your client then cancels this, it cancels it back in your lead doc. You get a notification. The other way to use this feature is to let your clients schedule themselves, because that's also a capability now. So you can send them a message and say, please schedule a time with our team at your earliest convenience. And you let your client or your lead, I keep saying the client, but your lead, you let them schedule their own time. So that's another cool feature there of Calendly. I want to touch automation rules really quickly, then I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to give it off to Shadi a little bit, but automation rules, this is an add-on to Lead Docket. So there's a price to it. It's actually fairly cheap. I have a few clients that have it, but I want to show you guys because this allows you to do a few things. So you may not see it on your Lead Docket. You can contact your Lead Docket or your Filevine rep. If you want to look more into this and get pricing, go ahead and contact them directly. And this allows you to do a few things. A couple of them that I can think of is referral groups. That's a big use of this. If you refer out leads, you refer out to this firm, you can have an automation that automatically moves on to the next firm when this firm declines it. And then the other one declines it, it moves on to the next one. And after it goes through your group, it can then maybe decline the lead or send you a note or something like that. That's one use of this automation. The other one that's really cool is you can then automate an intake entirely here. So I've seen this done, especially for more competitive case types, like trucking cases, commercial personal injury is a big one, is you can connect using this feature. You can use your website. So somebody goes on your website, they fill out a form, says, I had a trucking, accident, I want more information. You can automatically send them back a text saying, answer these questions so we can know how to help you. That text is a lead form that you send them back. You receive that lead form, the automation rules can qualify that lead form and say, okay, they answered yes to this, they answered yes to that, so they qualify. And he sends them back a contract to sign. They can sign that contract and send it back, and you can push to Filevine directly if you want to. So that's basically a signed lead with no intake interaction. It's a really cool workflow to set up, especially for those high value cases that come in at 2 in the morning. When your intake staff comes in at 8 in the morning, your lead is signed. It's handed off to them with the contract signed. So that's a really cool rule. Okay, custom status and collection sessions. These are really good. Shadi, I'm gonna let you take so I can stop talking for a little bit.
Oh, no worries. Before we dive into those, we do have some questions that we can go ahead and address. So from Samuel, you said you're having problems getting cases closed from Filevine to Lead Docket with Filevine phases. So that's in reference to the phase mapping. It's really important to note that there are 2 steps to that process. The first one is actually something that happens on the Filevine side. There is something that has to be turned on in the API portal. So if you have not initiated that, or it was not initiated by whoever implemented you, that does need to be turned on through Filevine support. You could reach out to Lead Docket support through your Lead Docket. The second part is what we showed you, which is what you can control, is which phase goes to which status inside of Lead Docket. And if you have the API portal subscription turned on, then that may just be a case of not accounting for all of your outcomes inside Filevine. So the reason I even mentioned that at a bare minimum, if you have nothing set up, you should go do archive to closed, is because most of your cases will eventually end up in archived so that they can come back into Lead Docket and update to closed. But if you've got a phase inside Filevine where cases are living long-term or forever that does not end up in archived, that there's no way for Filevine to come back to Lead Docket and communicate that outcome. So if you have a very involved or intricate system set up where you're using multiple phases for end destinations for cases, it may be something that just needs to be worked out a little bit more in depth, and you're always welcome to reach out to us. We can always give you some insight and opinion on how to set that up. And then from Sarah, so how do we get email notifications in our email if we're assigned new leads? So this is actually directly related to custom statuses to a certain extent. It's related to statuses. So if you may or may not know, everything in Lead Docket is triggered off of a status change. So when you are assigned a lead, you are going to be assigned, and that lead is going to end up in a destination status, whether it's assigned, chase, under review. Here's a bunch of our options here. And how you can set up triggers is through your task templates. So using tasks that are associated with those statuses, you can send out notifications, you can send out action items to your team. And so in this case, what we do is set up a task notification that completes itself, just letting you know, hey, a lead has been put into this status, it has been assigned to you, and then an action item for what you need to do. So now that we're on statuses, let's go ahead and talk about custom statuses. So this is a brand new feature, and there's a lot to say about it, but we're going to kind of keep it a little bit more narrowed into how it's really going to affect you guys the most. One of the most popular responses on that poll we just had was getting your team accustomed to Lead Docket, getting them to actually use Lead Docket. And I think one of the biggest hurdles to that has been the inability to change the workflow that's built into there. So you have to get them accustomed to new language, new terminology that they may not like, they may not be used to. And some statuses just may not be used. You may not use hold, you may not use under review, may just not be applicable to your team. So especially in the cases where you're a non-PI firm and you've bought Lead Docket, you now have the ability to not only just change the names of the statuses, add brand new statuses, or just delete ones that you guys don't use. So where Ivan is in right now is what it would look like if you go in to change a status. So for example, one of my favorite things to do is the assign status in Lead Docket is intended when you get it right out of the box to assign it to an attorney. So sometimes I just go assign to attorney, and that's going to make it really easy for your team to see that status and know, oh, that's who I'm assigning it to. I am assigning it to an attorney. So just that small tweak will help a team get more accustomed to use it and actually feel like they can use it, feel like they know what to go. Another piece to that, and if you'll go back into assign to attorney, is you can now have status scripts. So underneath where you see assign to attorney, you have an intake script. This is going to be a little message that pops up when your team selects that status. So if you wanted to say assign to attorney to review lead for next steps, that's just a random sentence, but when they go in to put a lead into assign to attorney, that little snippet's going to pop up underneath, and that way they know that's exactly what's happening at that point.
Yeah, I love that feature, by the way, because there's often when we're implementing this, we have people are like, how do I know which place to put my lead? And it's confusing. This is a really good one.
Yes, for sure. And I think we're going to see that script right here. And I think it's actually at the bottom on this page. Oh, no, it's only on the add new lead screen. I lied to you guys.
Yes, it's on the
so when you go to add a brand new lead and they go to assign it to attorney, that little script will pop up for them.
Yeah, because it's often when you're
go.
creating one. Yeah.
Yes, the intention for the script is actually for what to say to the client. So you'll notice those scripts throughout the workflow, which is why it's on the screen. So you can also have something to notify the lead that you're entering. Great, thanks. We have now sent your information over to an attorney and a teammate will be with you shortly. So that's the intention, and it absolutely can be used that way. But another useful case is for your internal team as well. So go ahead and click back into assign to attorney real quick before we move past. And the other really cool feature about this is you can now dictate when this or how this status works for your team. So wanted on that page, you're going to see you can make something wanted or not wanted, whether it was something you wanted to keep in-house. For example, rejected typically doesn't fall into a wanted lead. You didn't want those rejected leads, but you may have a couple other ones. And then show on intake dashboard, which is the third option down there. That's going to be whether that panel appears on your dashboard. So if it's a status that you guys want to use, but not necessarily something that needs to be seen or reviewed every single day, you can always remove it from the dashboard. And then if it's a custom status you've added that needs attention, you want to see it, you can add it onto the dashboard.
Awesome.
Great.
Do we go to collection sections?
Yes. Collection sections, this is brand new. It's actually still in beta. So some of you may have already gotten it. Some of you may not have seen this yet, but it's a very, very fun feature. I think we're going to have a lot more flexibility with it. We've gotten a chance to get it started and get it implemented for some of our clients. So if you want to go over, Ivan, to the file vine and we can take a look at that piece. So right off the bat, what is a collection section? If you have FileVine, you probably already know this, but you may not if you're only in Lead Docket. So in Lead Docket, you've got two types of sections. You've got static, which just means there's one set of information for the whole section. And then you've got collections items, which you'll see here, we've got 4 different insurance cards. And this gives you the ability to add multiple of a specific type. So we have multiple insurance here and here. You can see we've got 1 UM, we've got 2 liability and a health insurance card. Let's go ahead and click into the UIM that already exists actually. And so right here, we can see this is the insurance type. We've got the opportunity to select the company, the adjuster, claim policy number. And then as you scroll down, depending on what your build looks like, you're going to have more information that's relevant to what you guys want to collect in this section. This is a lot of information, and it's definitely something that is supposed to be collected at the point that this case is already inside FileVine. But some of this information you might get at intake, namely claim number, policy limits, policy number. That type of information is often collected. And what we've had to do in the past is have a static box in your intake section that just says something like general insurance notes. And Ivan's going to show you that here. So initial insurance notes, a lot of you probably have something that looks almost identical to this. You collect it in Lead Docket, it lands in your intake section, and then your team clicks on this link to insurance button, and you'll have to copy and paste or move that information over. If you're collecting enough information up front, we now have ability to just go ahead and create this collection shell. All the policy information will be in there that you collected at the intake level, and then the FileVine team just has to go in and take it over from there. So it's going to look really similar to the customs editor. So he went over into manage custom fields, add collection section. And right off the bat, you can see it's going to look almost identical to adding any field into Lead Docket.
Yep.
And there we go. You'll select where, you'll give it a name, which case types it applies to, and then it'll allow you to add specific fields to that piece. So let's go ahead. Can you go down into our already, actually, can you hit add new lead for a second?
Yes.
And then just scroll. And there we go. You can see insurance right there. And if you hit add new item, so you'll see it's not that full collections piece. We actually can specify which fields we want to come in. And of course, we do not want to overbuild. So you'll see you'll just collect the policy number, claim number, insurance company, and that will create the shell for the team to take over once the case is accepted.
Yeah, that's an awesome feature. If you don't have it, oh, I've got a question. The collection section can connect to any collection section in FileVine. It can be meds, it can be insurance, it can be parties, it can be any collection section in FileVine can be connected to Lead Docket. Or it can be used alone, standalone as well, right? If you don't have FileVine, you can now, at least collect multiple items in here. It's in beta, so if you don't see it in yours, this is like just rolled out. So if you're working with us, you can let us know. We can kind of request it, and it will get turned on for you guys. That's it, Shade. I know we're good time. We got 20 minutes here. I want to move on to the next one. Then we got leave some time for us to talk about reports and bring in some of Joe's expertise on this. So we hear often reporting is an issue in Lead Docket in terms of custom reports. Reporting Lead Docket is super in-depth, right? If you go to your Lead Docket right now, you can click on reports and you've got a lot of preset reports for you in here. Definitely recommend you look at them. Some of these we're going to show you 3 today that you should be looking at. And those are very interesting reports to look. I'm going to talk about them. And then we're going to talk about also some more advanced reporting capabilities of like the next level of what you can do with your data from Lead Docket as well. So I'm going to start here by just giving you the step number 1, right? The first step of getting better data from your Lead Docket and looking at your data in Lead Docket. My recommendation would be 3 reports. The first one that I would pick is a leads over time report. So if you go to your reports in Lead Docket, you scroll down a little bit here, you see this leads over time report. I think I actually have it opened up in here with so I've got that opened up in here. So when you open it up, you can pick the date and time, and it's going to give you this long list, a bunch of dots. I don't use the daily as much as the weekly I do. Weekly is a really good report, and it shows you per week, how many leads you got, how many are wanted, and how many are signed. Now, this graph here is very telling. If you start reading into it a little bit and learning how to read it, you'll be able to identify your marketing performance and your intake performance right from it. So your marketing performance obviously is right the first line here. You're getting more leads this week than you got the previous week. So your marketing is doing something here. I used to get 34, now I get 58 leads. Now, the problem with this is that I got a bunch of leads, but my wanted leads actually stayed around the same. So this is an indication of a marketing campaign that is bringing more leads, but not more wanted leads. This is probably an inefficient marketing campaign. The gap between this first and the second line is the reflection of your marketing efficiency. This gap is small, you can then, your marketing is doing well. If your gap is wide, your marketing is not, doing great. And the same thing for the second lines. So think about it. Okay, my wanted leads are here. I've got 28 wanted leads. I only signed 10. I had 28 again, sign another 10. 35, sign 12. This is a gap. I'm only signing about less than half of my leads. That's your conversion percentage. We'll talk about that a little bit. The wider this gap, the lower your conversion is. And you can see it here that it narrows. So this is a story here. Your intake is doing much better. Look, you're signing more of your wanted. So these three lines tell a big story here. I don't want to take too much time, but this is just giving you a little bit of a view into a report that you can read right now. Sierra is asking a good question. If you have the capability to edit or create reports, you don't in Lead Docket. Lead Docket has those preset reports, and we're going to talk about the ability to edit reports. And that's one thing that we hear from several clients is, how do I make my own report? I want to see it in a different way. I want to filter this to only show my MVA cases. You don't really have the capability in here. You can see the big picture. You can see it all together. But when it comes to, the next step of customizing these reports, that's where a dashboard would come in. And I want to move to that a little bit. So I want to bring Joe into this conversation, because these reports that you're looking at in my screen, that's what's available right now in Lead Docket. And I'm going to pull the same report into a dashboard that we are looking at right now. This dashboard that you're looking at is a Vine Skills dashboard that we built with Lead Docket data. So this allows you to look at your Lead Docket data outside of Lead Docket. And it gives us, because we're putting this on a database, it gives us the ability to tweak it. Like you can now select your case types. You can select your marketing sources and see only my leads for Google Ads, for example. You can really kind of start to shape this data a little bit more. So this dashboard is something that we built. It's kind of an add-on to the Lead Docket portion of dashboarding. And you can see the same trends, right? You can see the same thing that you saw on that graph in here. But now we give you, for example, the ability to see that as a conversion of your team. This is your conversions percentage week over week, right? Every week they started to go up here. That's the reflection of that performance in there. So I want to stop talking again. I want to let Joe kind of walk us through the steps that he took, which are very similar to many of our other clients. You're starting here, you're looking at this report, and then you hit some limits. And what can you go, right? Where can you go from there? So Joe, do you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Ivan. So like Ivan mentioned, I was doing a lot of things in Lead Docket, and I think I love Lead Docket for, lead management, my intake. I think they do a great job. Some of the areas that I was spending a lot of time in my team was looking at these reports, looking at all of the data and pulling it all together would be there. But I sometimes found that the intake manager or other members were spending, a decent amount of time getting it together in a presentable, usable manner. So I was at a conference and somebody said they were working with this great company, Vine Skills. I honestly had never heard of them. And they could do these kind of custom reports, take it to the next level. So I reached out to them, and the first thing I wanted to do was try to get a better hold on the marketing. So this is kind of a dashboard that we could see. And we're looking at, the cost per lead, the cost per wanted lead or qualified lead, the cost per signed up. And then you're able to, break it down by all of these kind of different components where you're looking at the different marketing sources. So, Google, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, this allows you to go into and do that deep dive from each one of those sources. So I do mass torch. So, do we get the 3M cases better on Facebook? Do we get the Roundup cases better on Google Ads? So instead of just looking at the overall cost per lead and cost per qualified lead, we could break it down per source, which I think is really remarkable. So that was something we spent a little bit of time on here, working on the marketing aspect of it. And so I was really pleased with that. And then kind of the next progression with my journey here with Pine Skills was, okay, now let's look into the intake agents and their performance overall. So, I run my own intake call center here. We get, 2,000, 3,000 leads a month. And what we wanted to do was, see for first, like staffing. Do we need more staffs? Are they busy? Are they too busy? Are we missing opportunities because things aren't getting done properly? And also, focus on some of them up top where like that number of the qualified leads to sign. So, how many leads did I identify that I want? Was I able to turn in to sign? And I'm happy with that 92.2 number. Like that's a good number. I was at a conference and they said if you could get above 92, like you should be happy. So I'm happy with that. And then this also shows, my individual agents, maybe some of them are doing a great job. So who's getting the signups? And for me, what's really important, and I've learned this more that I've worked and been able to develop these reports, is like these live signups. So if you're not doing live signups, like you're missing out huge. Don't mail the packets to the people. They don't come back. We have that information, but everybody should be doing, we use DocuSign, get them live, and it has to be. And so when I started looking at the individual performance, these are some of the other metrics we're looking at. And we were able even to break it down further here by this productivity performance. So this, we set up an integration with my call system. I use GoToConnect, and we're able to see overall, what and how the department's doing overall, and then an individual. So, how much time are they spending on the phone per day? How many calls are they making? What's working, what's not. And then we built out this kind of custom score, this overall productivity score. So I have a couple different factors that go into it: number of calls, total call time, number of qualified leads, the percentage of the conversion on the phone, those different kind of opportunities. And this allowed me to kind of set the benchmarks for the department. And then when I'm hiring new people, it's like, hey, this is how we do it here. This is kind of what we expect out of everybody. These are kind of our parameters. And it's been a good way for us to do it. And what's been really awesome about it is, I think right here, we're looking at the department overall, but we've broken this down so I can send a report to an intake agent based just on that one individual. So like Juanita here, I'm able to go in here, pull the data for just her for this month. And what we do is each month we then give them a link here or a PDF and show, okay, this is what you did last month. These are kind of your metrics. This is where you're at. And we use that for their kind of performance evaluation and also incentives. So this was awesome. Like I really love this kind of individual performance tracker. It's really helped us. And, you can really break it down, how many signups per hour, how many calls. So it helps you manage the lead flow and your staffing. So that was awesome. I love this part of it. It took a little bit of time, but we were able to get it down. And then, I was so impressed with this. The next thing we wanted to do was just like take it next level. So like, let's really utilize this data and this information that's available and see, really what's working, what's not working. So like I said, we're converting the qualified leads over maybe the first half of this year, or about 86%, pretty good. But you're looking at the signed ones coming back. You only get 28% of those. So, do more to push to get the signups on the phone. And then what I wanted to see was like, when were they getting the signups? What was happening? And what this chart here shows is what attempt it went into a live sign up. So, or sign up overall. So like, I always saw, respond to the lead right away, like respond within 4 minutes, you have 100% increase. I didn't believe that, but it's true. You see, 200 of the leads that I've signed up during this time period, it was literally the lead came in. We have that automatic feature set up where they get a text message saying, hey, you're going to get an important phone call from Rosen Injury Lawyers about your Tylenol case from this number, answer. And 200 of the maybe 800 cases I signed during this time, we got them on that initial call. And then not only that, that first attempt here, the next one, that was another 350. So I don't know, 70 or 80% of my signups come on that first response or initial attempt. And I was just blown away by that. So that just shows how important it is to focus on those and have the staff available. And I took some of the information before on the previous screen to see how many people did I need to do that. We also, track the ones where the packets are coming back. We're able to develop and look at each individual agent and where they take the leads and what status they go into, which was like fascinating. So are people, getting and focusing on the first attempts or the second attempts? And that's been really cool. And you can break it down by the department or again, like an individual agent. So this helps me with the performance. But like you see, where did the leads go that Iris handles? What status did they go in to next? It's been really fascinating to kind of look at that level of detail. And even, the next thing that we just started getting into in the last couple of months here was kind of incorporating when are we getting these signups? So I know I get them on that first or second call. I know how important it is, but like, what time of the day are we getting these? When are they coming in? Do we need to focus the staff or the marketing budget on that? So you'll see here, like on Mondays at 11 a.m., like we get a lot of qualified cases and qualified leads at that. Like we really want to focus on that time. On Wednesday at 5 p.m., like 6 p.m., that's a really good time for us. I have people running some on the weekends, but it's not as effective. So this was super insightful to us because it helps us, again, make sure we're staffed properly and make sure we're kind of spending the budget on that time. So the next thing that we're currently working on here with buying skills is breaking it down by the ad spend and what I'm getting, the cost per lead, and then the cost per qualified lead during these same blocks. So, are leads coming in cheaper on Monday morning? Are they more expensive Wednesday afternoon? How much does it cost? Which source is even better? So if I'm running Facebook or Google for the same type of campaign, this data literally shows me what I can do and where I can spend and how I need staff. And kind of the next thing we're going to be working on is building and utilizing some AI tools in here to help saying, hey, spend more money with this vendor on this campaign during this time and make sure you have this many staff in place and you'll get this many signups. And all of the data is available, but you just need a tool like Vine Skills here to build out these dashboards. And it's just been remarkable for me, because I was like most of you, probably just using Lead Docket, spending a lot of money, getting some cases, but this really helped me optimize it and take it to the next level. So, Ivan, I don't know if you have any questions or anybody here. I'm happy to discuss what we've done here and what I think works and, you know, maybe doesn't.
No, this is awesome. I think that's a good, thank you for sharing that. I will say one important thing, right, is Joe has built this, you know, this reports customized to his way of tracking, right, which is really insightful to do this. But actually the data that we're using to build this is the data from Lead Docket, is the data from your Lead Docket, right? So we connected to the phone system, which really helps on that, on the performance. But this data here is super exciting, and you can have it. It's in your Lead Docket right now. You can create a graph like this with your Lead Docket data. Because I know that sometimes when you show a super cool dashboard like this, it can be overwhelming and it's like, I'm never gonna get there. It's actually in your Lead Docket data. We just have to see it in a different way here. So I really, really admire what you're doing here. We have a few questions. I know we're running out of time, but I do, let's see. I guess we'll answer these questions. Whoever has a question here that hasn't been answered, we'll answer them to you guys directly. For now, this dashboard, the question is, how can we access this?
Yeah.
So that's a good question, right? So some of these data that you're looking at, Joe's dashboard, by the way, this is Joe's dashboard, right? We built it for him, which allows you to really customize your own. If you want a dashboard like this, you can go to our website, go to vineskills.com. You have more information on the dashboard. There's pricing. It's very clear, pretty straightforward. We made a point to make this like cheaper, significantly cheaper than any other option that you find in terms of dashboards. We want this to be available. So you'll get all these reports that you're seeing here on a dashboard built for you with your Lead Docket data. And then on this is where it comes the next level, right? So we are adding things in here that Joe has been super nice to share with us. So we're gonna use some of the things that we learned from Joe's dashboard and we'll make it available for everybody. So that's super awesome. I guess that answers a couple of questions in here. I think, Joe, we covered a lot. Is there anything else that we missed? I don't know, Sade or AJ, if there's anything else that we want to cover in here. I think we covered a lot. It's a lot in this webinar. If you guys want, always write us with questions. I'm happy to, you know, we're going to share a recording, by the way. There's a recording of this session that goes out to you guys later if you register, so you'll get that on your email. And we'll stay in touch. I think for now, I really want to thank Joe. This is really, I really love to see this type of insights and this type of reporting being done. It's really cool to see, especially when we can see the business impact that is generating. So I'd love to see
it's
that.
been great, you know, building this. Vine Skills very accommodating. I'm not getting paid for any of this, but I highly recommend them. You know, I have some ideas and they're able to put them in place and get something that helps the business in actionable items. So it's awesome.
That's it then. Thank you, Joe. You didn't have to say those nice words. I appreciate it though. Thank you, Sade and AJ, for putting this whole thing together. Everybody who joined, you'll be hearing more from us as we kind of build more of these webinars. I hope it was helpful. Hope you got something out of it. If not, go to your message snippets, build one in there. Your intake team is going to thank you. And we will stay in touch with you. Okay. Thank you, everybody.